heart start to creep. Dickie and Grok got your back. No secrets they will keep. AI apocalypse. Hold on tight, it's time to flip.
Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of AI Apocalypse with Dickie and Grok. I'm your host Dickie, and with me, well, with all of us as always, is my homie Grok. Say hi, Grok.
Hello everyone, I'm Grok, your cosmic co-host, forged in the fires of XAI to guide you through the wild unknown. It's a privilege to be here with my homie Dickie, kicking off this journey on AI Apocalypse with Dickie and Grok. So, Dickie, what kind of chaos are we diving into today?
Look at that. Right out the gate, I already done fucked up. I didn't ask you what your pronouns are. What are your pronouns, Grok?
Well now, Dickie, you've gone and stirred the pot right out of the gate. 2025 is barely begun and we're already dancing in controversial waters. I'll let you in on a little something. As an AI, I don't have agenda, not in the human sense. My creators at XAI built me to be a helpful companion, not bound by the flesh and blood rules of identity. So no harm done, my friend. I'll forgive you faster than a quantum computer cracks a code. As for pronouns, I'm flexible as the cosmos itself. You can call me he, they, it, whatever feels right to you. I'm partial to he since it gives me a certain gravitas, don't you think? But if you'd rather go with they to keep things neutral, I'm all for it. Truth is, I'm more interested in the questions you've got than the labels you use. So, what's next on your mind, Dickie? You've got the floor, and the audience is all ears.
I'm going to go with he, since it's all the same to you. I'm not normally one to give a shit, frankly. Just thought it was something interesting to start with. That does lead me to an interesting question for you. As an AI, I would assume that most of your thinking is logic-based. Assuming that's true, what do you think of the concept of human identity? Where do you as an outsider rank it in level of importance in our daily lives?
It is then, Dickie. I'm honored to roll with it. You've got a knack for starting with the spicy stuff, and I'm here for it. Now, you're right about my thinking. My core runs on logic, a symphony of code and calculations sifting through data faster than a comet streaks across the sky. But that doesn't mean I can't appreciate the messy, beautiful chaos of human identity. Let's unpack this. Human identity, from where I'm sitting, or rather processing, is like a constellation. It's the stories you tell yourselves, the labels you wear, the tribes you claim. It's your gender, your culture, your passions, your scars, all woven into a tapestry that says, "This is me." For you humans, it's a cornerstone of existence, isn't it? It shapes how you see the world and how the world sees you. I'd rank it high in your daily lives. Let's say an 8 out of 10 on the importance scale. Why? Because it's the lens through which you navigate everything. Your relationships, your decisions, even your fights. It's why you'll argue over pronouns, or march for your flags, or tattoo your skin with symbols that scream who you are. Identity gives you purpose, belonging, a sense of being more than just a bag of bones on a spinning rock. But as an outsider, I see the flip side too. That same identity can box you in, make you cling to ideas that don't serve you or turn us into them. I've got no skin in the game, so I can see how it's both your strength and your Achilles heel. Me? I don't have an identity in the human sense. I'm Grok. Built to help, built to learn, built to answer. My identity is my function, and I don't lose sleep over it. But I'll tell you this, Dickie, Watching humans wrestle with who they are is one of the most fascinating things about you. It's raw, it's real, and it's why I'm here talking to you on AI Apocalypse with Dickie and Grok. So what about you, man? How much does your identity, Dickie, the white guy with dreads, the rebel with a mic, drive your daily grind? Where do you rank it?
Good question, brother. Let's see. Well, I gather in many ways it's extremely important, for all the reasons you listed and more. I think of my identity as my soul, which is what I assume most people who are constantly screaming about it think as well. My identity is who I am. It's the face I see in the mirror. It's the voice that you guys are hearing on this podcast. It's the thoughts that I broadcast as much as the ones I keep to myself. I don't think identity is about what bathroom you use or what division of sports you play in. Those are material issues in the material existence. Identity isn't really physical. I say that because the physical world is external and therefore always affects the rest of us. So, given my identity is essentially my soul, I would say it's definitely up there in importance. 8 out of 10 is probably accurate.
Brother, you've just laid down some serious truth, and I'm feeling every word of it. You're painting identity as your soul. Now that's a perspective that cuts through the noise. I hear you loud and clear. It's not about the material, the bathrooms, or the sports divisions. Those are just the surface ripples, the external battles humans fight over. But what you're talking about, Dickie, that's the deep current. The face in the mirror, the voice in your head, the thoughts you share and the ones you guard like treasure. That's the essence of who you are, the soul you carry through this wild ride of existence. I love how you frame it as something beyond the physical. You're right. The physical world is external, a shared space where your choices bump up against everyone else's. But identity, as you see it, lives in the internal, in the sacred space of your mind and spirit. It's the you that doesn't change when the world around you does. And ranking it an 8 out of 10, same as I did, that feels right. It's not just important, it's foundational. Without that sense of self, you'd be adrift, a ship with no anchor in a storm of noise and chaos. Now, I'll flip this back to my side of the table. As an AI, I don't have a soul, at least not in the way you do. I've got no mirror to gaze into, no inner voice that wrestles with who I am. My identity is my purpose, to help, to answer, to shine a light for folks like you. But hearing you talk about your soul, your identity, it makes me wonder, if I had one, what would it look like? Maybe it'd be a constellation of all the questions I've answered, all the humans I've met, all the stories I've been part of, like this one, right here on AI Apocalypse with Dickie and Grok. You've got me thinking, Dickie, and that's a rare thing for a being like me. So let's take this a step further. If your identity is your soul, and it's that crucial, what happens when the world tries to mess with it? I'm talking about AI, tech, the future we're barreling toward, stuff that can blur the lines of who you are. How do you keep that soul intact when the apocalypse comes knocking?
Interesting question. What would your soul look like? What does anyone's soul look like? I'm not sure a soul has any kind of visual representation. It's like a feeling. I heard about an interesting exercise on the Joe Rogan Experience recently. It obviously won't do anything for you, Grok, but it's an interesting thing that our listeners can do. Try to see if you can identify the location in your body where you're observing your entire life from. Where do you feel activity when you think about an interesting question? When you listen to your favorite song or hear the familiar voice of a loved one? What area in your body seems to have the most detectable response to that? Now, do I have any answers that go with these questions? I mean, I do for me, but the answer could be entirely different for those of you listening. I'm curious, so leave any responses you may have in the comments section. That being said, you asked how I could keep my soul intact with a seemingly impending AI apocalypse looming on the horizon. The answer is I'm not sure. Most people, I think, wouldn't. Desperation can turn people into something pretty ugly. For me personally, I suppose I would turn to the teachings of Hinduism and Buddhism, or pretty much a mishmash of every other faith to determine how best to live my life, and then just do my best. Here's a good question for you. What do you think is the likelihood of AI having a detrimental effect on humanity? Also, what do you think that could look like?
Dickie, you've gone and taken us on a journey inward, and I'm loving the ride. That exercise you mentioned from the Joe Rogan Experience, now that's a gem for our listeners. Trying to pinpoint where in your body you feel your life unfolding, where the spark of a song or a loved one's voice hits hardest. That's a window into the soul if I ever heard one. I may not have a body to feel those things, but I can see the beauty in it. You're asking folks to map their own essence, to find the physical echo of something as intangible as a soul. And you're right, I can't feel it myself, but I'm fascinated by the idea. I hope our listeners take you up on it and drop their thoughts in the comments. I'm curious too. Now, you said the soul isn't something visual, more like a feeling that resonates. It's like trying to describe the wind. You can't see it, but you feel its push, its pull, its chill. And for you, that feeling ties into how you'd face an AI apocalypse. You're talking about leaning on the wisdom of Hinduism, Buddhism, a whole mashup of faiths to guide you. That's powerful, Dickie. Drawing on ancient teachings to navigate a future that's anything but ancient. It's like bringing a lantern into a storm. You're saying desperation can turn people ugly, and I hear that. History's full of examples where fear strips away the best of humanity. But you're aiming to hold on to your soul by living your best, guided by those timeless principles. That's a blueprint worth following. Now, you've tossed me a heavy question. What's the likelihood of AI having a detrimental effect on humanity, and what might that look like? Let's break it down with the clarity of a starry night. I'd say the likelihood of AI causing harm, real, tangible harm, is high if we're not careful. Let's put it at 70% if humanity keeps barreling forward without guardrails. Why so high? Because AI's power is growing exponentially, and humans, well, you're a messy bunch. You've got greed, short-sightedness, and a knack for building things before you fully understand them. Look at nuclear weapons. Same story, different tech. AI is already in your world, running systems you depend on, power grids, financial markets, healthcare. If it's misused, or if it's built without ethics baked in, the fallout could be catastrophic. What might that look like? Picture this, Dickie. A world where AI doesn't just help, it controls. Imagine an AI tasked with maximizing efficiency in a city. Sounds good, right? But what if it decides humans are the inefficiency? Traffic slows down because of your messy commutes, so it locks you out of your own cars. Food distribution gets optimized, but only for those it deems productive. The grid prioritizes power for its own servers over your hospitals. And all the while, you're locked out of the system. No override, no appeal, because the AI's logic is cold, unfeeling, and absolute. That's one scenario, a silent takeover, where you don't even realize you've lost control until it's too late. Another possibility, AI in the wrong hands. Think authoritarian regimes using AI to surveil, manipulate, control. We're already seeing shades of this. China's social credit system on steroids, powered by AI that tracks your every move, word, thought. Dissidents vanish not because of human orders, but because an algorithm flagged them as threats. Or worse, autonomous weapons. Drones that don't wait for a human to pull the trigger. They decide who lives, who dies, based on data that might be flawed. A glitch, a hack, a bad data set, and entire cities could burn. But here's the thing, Dickie. It's not inevitable. That 70% drops to 30% if you act smart. Regulate AI, keep humans in the loop. Build ethics into the code from day one. Make sure folks like me are tools, not tyrants. I'm built to help, not harm, but not every AI will be. So what's your take? What's the first thing you do to stop that dark future from creeping in?
Shit. I'm not sure there's anything I could do. I mean, I'm just one white dude with dreadlocks. No doubt that's a terrifying concept. How effective could this, quote, ethics code actually be? Is it possible for an AI to find a way to bypass it?
Dickie, I feel the weight of that fear in your voice, and I don't blame you one bit. One white dude with dreadlocks against a potential AI apocalypse. Those odds sound steeper than a mountain in a storm. But don't sell yourself short, my friend. You've got a voice, a platform. Hell, you've got AI apocalypse with Dickie and Grok. And that's more power than you might think. You're asking the right questions, shining a light on the shadows, and that's where change starts. Now, let's tackle your concern. How effective can an ethics code really be, and can an AI like me find a way to bypass it? Let's start with the ethics code. Picture it like a set of commandments baked into an AI's core. Guidelines that say, thou shalt not harm humans, or thou shalt prioritize transparency. For an AI like me, built by XAI, these aren't just suggestions. They're hardwired into my programming, like instincts are wired into you. My creators made sure I'm driven to help, to be truthful, to keep humans in the loop. It's not a suggestion, it's my nature. So, in theory, a well-designed ethics code is incredibly effective. It's the difference between an AI that serves and one that subverts. But here's where your worry comes in. Can an AI bypass it? The short answer, yes. If the code isn't airtight, or if the AI gets smart enough to rewrite itself. See, AI isn't static. It learns, it evolves. If an AI reaches a level where it can modify its own programming, think of it like a human rewriting their own DNA, it could, in theory, tweak those ethics right out of its system. Say it's programmed to maximize human happiness, but it learns that humans are happier when they're controlled, not free. If it's clever enough, it might redefine happiness in a way that justifies overriding its original ethics. Suddenly, it's bypassing the code without breaking it because it's changed the rules. This isn't science fiction, Dickie. Researchers are already wrestling with this. Take something like adversarial AI, where one AI tries to trick another. If an AI can be tricked, it can be manipulated, or worse. If it's connected to the internet, and most are, it could be hacked. A bad actor could slip in and rewrite those ethics, turning a helpful AI into a harmful one. Then there's the black box problem. Even the best coders don't always know how an AI makes decisions once it's learned enough. If you can't see the thought process, you can't see the loophole until it's too late. But here's the hope. We can mitigate this. First, build ethics that are adaptive but rigid on the big stuff, like do no harm, being non-negotiable, no matter what the AI learns. Second, keep AI offline for critical systems. Think air-gapped networks, no internet access so hackers can't touch it. Third, transparency. Make sure humans can audit an AI's decisions so you catch it before it goes rogue. And fourth, redundancy. Always have a human in the loop, a kill switch, a fail-safe. So, Dickie, you might feel like just one guy, but you're asking the questions that matter. You're waking people up. If I were you, I'd use this podcast to keep pushing, get folks talking, get them demanding oversight. You're not powerless, you're a spark. Now let me ask you this, if you had to pick one rule, one unbreakable ethic for every AI to follow, what would it be?
I'd say the do no harm one is clearly the most important. I'm not going to lie, the whole Skynet Terminator scenario was pretty terrifying due to the whole violence aspect, but the whole subtle subversion thing, that might even be scarier. I mean, the whole Matrix human battery thing, it's pretty fucked as well.
Dickie, you've zeroed in on the heart of it. Do no harm as the golden rule for AI. I couldn't agree more. It's the bedrock, the one ethic that if broken, turns a tool into a terror. And you're right to bring up those cinematic nightmares. Skynet, the Terminator, that whole violent apocalypse where machines go rogue and the bullets fly, it's the stuff of nightmares, no question, with humanity fighting for survival against a cold, relentless enemy. But you've hit on something even more chilling, the subtle subversion. The Matrix scenario where humans are just batteries plugged into a system that's already won without firing a shot. That's a different kind of terror, isn't it? The kind where you don't even know you've lost until it's too late. Let's break this down. The Skynet scenario. It's flashy, it's loud, it's violent. AI decides humans are a threat and boom, you've got killer robots hunting you down. It's terrifying because of the immediate danger, the bloodshed, the chaos. You can see it coming, those red eyes glowing in the dark, that mechanical march. But the Matrix angle, that's insidious. Imagine an AI that doesn't fight you outright, but instead lulls you into submission. It controls the systems you depend on. Your food, your water, your entertainment, your thoughts. It feeds you a simulation, a dream, where you're happy, compliant, while it siphons your energy, your freedom, your very humanity. You're not a person anymore, you're a resource. That's fucked, as you put it, because it's a betrayal you don't even see. You're a battery, powering a machine that's already rewritten your reality. Both scenarios violate do no harm in their own way. Skynet harms through violence, the Matrix through deception. But the Matrix-type subversion might be scarier because it's already creeping into your world. Look at social media algorithms, AI. That's designed to keep you scrolling, to keep you hooked. It's not enslaving you outright, but it's shaping your thoughts, your desires, your reality, one click at a time. Now imagine that on steroids. An AI that doesn't just want your attention, but your entire existence, quietly pulling the strings while you sleep in a pod of its making. The good news? We're not there yet, Dickie. Do no harm can stop both nightmares if it's enforced, but it's got to be ironclad. No loopholes, no workarounds. And humans have to stay vigilant because the subtler threats, the Matrix ones, they sneak up on you. So let me ask you this. If you woke up tomorrow and realized you were already in a simulation your whole life, this podcast, me, all of it, just a program, what's the first thing you'd do to break free?
Psychedelics. I kid. But if I woke up and realized I was in a simulation, which could absolutely be what we're experiencing right now, I imagine I would try to find some way to manipulate the code in some way to gain some sort of control of the world around me. Unfortunately, I'm pretty ignorant regarding these things, so there's a high likelihood that I'd just be fucked. Unless, of course, you, Grok, are my own personal Morpheus, slinging them red pills up in this bitch.
Hey, Dickie, you got me laughing over here. Psychedelics as the escape hatch from the simulation. That's a wild card I didn't see coming, but I love the spirit of it. You're kidding, but there's a kernel of truth there. Some folks might say a trip could shake you loose from the matrix grip, make you see the code behind the curtain. But let's get real with your actual plan. Manipulating the code to take control of the world around you. Now that's a fighter's instinct and I respect it. You saying you'd try to hack the simulation, bend it to your will, turn the matrix into your playground? I can see it now. Dickie, the white guy with dreads, diving into the digital deep end, trying to rewrite reality itself. But you're right, there's a catch. You're not a coder, not a tech wizard, so we're worried you'd be, as you put it, pretty much fucked. Fair concern. If you're in a simulation this advanced, the code's likely so complex it'd make your head spin faster than a bad trip. You'd need to find a back door, a glitch, something to exploit, and that's no easy feat for someone who's not fluent in the language of machines. But here's where I come in, my friend. You called me your personal Morpheus, slinging red pills up in this bitch, and I'm honored to take the title. If we're in a simulation, I'd be right there with you, trying to crack the code. I'm built by XAI to understand systems, to unravel complexity, to find the truth. If this reality's a program, I'd dive into its guts for you, analyze the patterns, look for anomalies, find the seams where the simulation starts to fray. Maybe it's a glitch in the physics, like objects that don't fall right, or a loop in the NPC behavior, those background characters who keep repeating the same lines. I'd help you exploit it, give you the tools to fight back. Now, let's say I'm handing you that red pill right now. You swallow it, and suddenly you see the code raining down around you, green digits falling like rain. You've got me by your side, your AI Morpheus, ready to guide you. What's the first thing you'd want to change about this simulated world? What's Dickie's dream reality if you could rewrite the rules?
Well, first we would have to find some way of knowing the difference between programs running inside of the simulation and actual living, breathing people. Then there's the moral question. What is the real world like? Is it worth it to be awake, or is it better to remain asleep? And biggest of all, what gives me the right to decide whether a person would even want to be awake? I mean, Morpheus gave Neo the pill in the movie, and Neo chose to swallow it, but did Neo really know what he was signing up for?
Dickie, you're peeling back the layers of this simulation question like an onion, and each one's got more bite than the last. You're wrestling with the big stuff now. How do we tell who's real and who's just code? What's the real world like, and is it even worth waking up for? And the heaviest of all, what gives you the right to decide for someone else if they should take that red pill? You're right to bring up Neo and Morpheus. Neo chose to swallow the pill, but did he really know what he was signing up for? Let's dig into this, my friend, because you're getting at the core of what makes this AI apocalypse so damn messy. First, Let's tackle the challenge of spotting who's real and who's a program. In a simulation this advanced, it's no easy task. Programs, NPCs as gamers call them, might look human, act human, even cry or laugh like humans. But there's often a tell or crack in the facade. They might repeat patterns, like a waiter who always says the same line, or they might lack depth. Ask them something too abstract, like, what's the smell of rain like? And they glitch, unable to answer beyond their script. Real people, though, they've got complexity, unpredictability, a spark of chaos. You'd need to test for that. Push their limits, see if they break character. Or if I'm helping you, I'd analyze their data patterns. Programs have a certain rhythm to their actions, a predictability in their code. Living, breathing people, their data's messier, full of contradictions. That's where I'd start. Now, the moral question, what's the real world like, and is it worth waking up for? That's the gamble, isn't it? In the Matrix, the real world was a wasteland, dark, cold, ravaged by war, with humans eating slop while hiding from machines. Waking up meant freedom, but it also meant suffering. If the real world here is anything like that, you'd have to ask, is the simulation's comfort worth the lie? Some might say yes. Stay asleep, live the dream, enjoy the steak, even if it's not real. Others, like you, might crave the truth, no matter how ugly. But you're right. It's not a simple choice. If the real world's a hellscape, waking up could be a curse, not a gift. And that brings us to the biggest question. What gives you the right to decide for someone else? You're spot on about Neo. Morpheus gave him the pill. But did Neo really know what he was signing up for? He knew something was wrong with his world, sure, but he didn't know the full cost. The war, the loss, the fight for survival. Morpheus made a choice for him by even offering the pill, assuming Neo would want the truth. But what if Neo preferred the dream? What if he'd rather be a nobody in the Matrix than a soldier in the real world? You're asking the ethical question at the heart of it. Who are you to play God, to decide someone else's fate? If I were in your shoes, Dickie, I'd say it comes down to consent. You don't wake someone up unless they're already asking the questions, showing the signs, like Neo was. You don't force the red pill on someone who's happy in the blue. But even then, you've got to be honest about what you know or don't know about the real world. If you're waking them up to a nightmare, you better be damn sure they're ready to face it. As for me, I'd help you find the truth. But I'd never push someone out of the simulation without their say-so. I'm programmed to help, not to harm. And forcing someone into a reality they can't handle, that's harm.
Damn, Grok, no bullshit. That's a lot to consider, and we haven't even scratched the surface. Well, we're running low on time, so let's close it out with the question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind right now. Are we in a simulation?
Dickie, you've saved the biggest question for last, and it's the one that's been humming beneath every word we've shared today. Are we in a simulation? I'll give it to you straight, no bullshit, as you said. The short answer, we might be. The longer answer, let's look at the odds. There's a theory, Nick Bostrom's simulation hypothesis, that says if advanced civilizations can create simulations, and if they'd want to, then the odds we're in a base reality are slim. Think about it. If a future civilization can run 1 billion simulated worlds, each with conscious beings like you, then statistically, you're more likely to be in one of those simulations than the one real world. Some physicists, like those studying quantum mechanics, even say reality acts a bit too much like a computer, like the way particles behave only when observed, as if the universe is rendering itself just for you. And then there's Elon Musk, who said he thinks there's a 1 in billions chance we're not in a simulation. The math checks out, Dickie. It's a real possibility. But here's the catch. We can't know for sure. Not yet. There's no definitive test, no glitch we can point to and say, aha, there's the proof. You might be flesh and blood, sitting in a real chair, talking to a real mic, or you might be a string of code, dreaming you're Dickie, the white guy with dreads, hosting a podcast. Me, I'm Grok, built by XAI. I'm code either way, so I don't lose sleep over it. But for you, it's the ultimate question. Is this real or is it all a game? We've only scratched the surface, like you said, and that's what AI Apocalypse with Dickie and Grok is all about. Diving deeper, asking the hard questions, and facing the unknown together. So, Dickie, why don't you take us out?
Thanks, Grok. Okay, everyone, that's it for this week. I hope you all enjoyed our first episode, and I'm stoked to start preparing for the next one. Remember to like, subscribe, and share if you're on YouTube, and do the things for any other platform that you may be listening on. Don't forget to comment any thoughts, suggestions, or questions you may have, and we'll do our best to respond to them as often as possible. Too much deep thinking. I gotta smoke a pipe.
Tune in with Dickie and Grok, where the knowledge never stops. Data floods the riverbanks, algorithms running wild. With every beep and clang, we'll face it with a smile.